You know, my swan song was my 50th reunion here at Oberlin. So that was supposed to be the last time that I would perform. And so I stopped performing. But I'm playing with such excellent faculty that I just hope I don't mess it up.
91-year-old Alice Takamoto rehearses with faculty members at the Oberlin Conservatory of Music, ahead of a recital honoring Japanese-American students who attended Oberlin during World War II. 3/4 of a century ago, Alice was a 16-year-old girl with a dream and the determination not to become a victim of her circumstances. Then, as now, her artistry prevailed. Alice, the youngest of 4 daughters, remembers being a teenager when the war broke out, forced from her community in Norwalk, California, into an assembly camp in Santa Anita, before eventually being moved to a relocation camp in Arkansas.
I've blocked out so much of Arkansas, I think, because it was an unhappy time. The wartime was very difficult to explain how we as a minority felt. And being put into the camp, I thought maybe there was a reason for it. Maybe I did something wrong. I was very unhappy because I didn't know anybody. My whole community went to another camp in Arkansas. So there I was with no friends, and there was of course there's no newspaper, no magazine, no radio, no TV, no library, and the school was just miserable.
At just 16 years old, Alice left Arkansas with her sister Grace after gaining acceptance as a student at Oberlin.
Once the government decided that we were not dangerous, now they wanted us to leave. I was a very immature 16-year-old with no social graces, and I was really scared.
Alice came to Oberlin in 1943 as a conservatory student, studying the piano. Her story now being presented along with photos, artifacts, and essays of the nearly 40 Japanese American students who came to the school during the course of the war.
This is a project that they've been working on for over 2 years, and we just saw it this morning. And what I'm very pleased is to have school children come to visit and to learn something about what's happened.
These students' stories, once a mostly forgotten footnote in history, are being told and celebrated through a national traveling exhibit called Courage and Compassion, our shared story of the Japanese-American World War II experience. At its stop in Northeast Ohio, Oberlin, with its proud history as a haven for the oppressed, shares its role in providing a refuge and an education to students like these.
This is really a moment where a community stood up and said, we don't need to racially profile an entire group of people in order to achieve our national security. That is not the right way to do that, right? It is not the right way to protect this country, and in fact, it violates the ideals that this country stands for and are in our Constitution.
Renee Romano, history professor at Oberlin College, combed through the school's archives to help tell these stories, and in the process began to understand the weight carried by these young students.
When they got here, what they found, I think, is not a perfect community, but one where they could really make a home. So they were able to walk around town, they got involved in student organizations, they became campus leaders, many of them.
Kenji Akuda, who was a student at the University of Washington when the war broke out, was elected student body president within a month of arriving on Oberlin's campus. But for others like Alice, the adjustment from camp to college life took a little longer.
I remember when I walked into any class, I couldn't converse with people, and it was very hard for me to make friends. I felt like I was out of place, and I did not feel, actually, I was not comfortable in my own skin too. So
Alice found comfort in her music and the Worcester family, who took her in during her junior year.
That was the sanctuary. That was my family there, because my parents were in camp. The Worcester family, Patty is here, they were just wonderful to me, and I can't express how important they were at that time of my life. I think that our situation was very relevant to what is happening now. At the time of the war, there was such fear of the Japanese people as a whole that I think there was a lot of propaganda and to not let the story be known. So I think the more people know about, a lot of people don't know about what's happened to us. And I know that until very recently, my age group, people on the East Coast, they didn't know this story. And of course, I just hope that it doesn't happen again to another group of people.
With her son and grandson in attendance, along with members of the Worcester family, Alice hit the final notes in a performance both flawless and unforgettable.